What is up, Bitcoiners? It's Joe Rodgers. I had a chance to sit down with Jimmy Song for another Bitcoin 2021 mini interview. We got to talk about how the world has changed since the last Bitcoin conference in 2019, what he's excited about, hint, hint, it's seeing the people, and what he thinks is going to be the big takeaway from this conference. You know, we've never had a get together of this magnitude, so there will no doubt be some straight fire come out as a result of this conference. So, the conference, June 3rd, 4th, 5th, beautiful Miami, Florida. We still have some tickets available. Head over to b.tc/conference and pick up a ticket. Use promo code STOSHI for 10% off. With that being said, let's get into this podcast. All right. Today I've got Jimmy Song with me, who's going to be one of our fantastic speakers at Bitcoin 2021. Jimmy, how are you doing? How's life treating you?
Life's treating me very well. I'm glad that like a lot of the restrictions are coming out in Texas. I was able to go shopping at Costco with without my mask the other day. Felt very good about that. Obviously excited about what's going on in Bitcoin, even though we're in a little bit of an Elon induced bear market a little bit, but a little overheated. But as they say, every time like Bitcoin goes down, it's a spring coiling to go back up. So very excited.
Absolutely. I had the pleasure of joining one of the BitDev meetups in Austin this spring, and it was very refreshing. I'm in a neighboring state from Texas, a little bit stricter regulation. So it was very nice to get down to Texas and experience some of that freedom and get around some Bitcoiners. And also, personal note, I was down in Florida about a month ago, and it was a ton of fun. I mean, they're completely wide open like Texas. So I think the rest of the nation is probably seeing what the heck is happening in those two states, and a lot of people are ready to move on with things.
Yeah, and this is why Bitcoin 2021 is going to be the epic event of the year, because there's a lot of people that are in very restricted cities that are just absolutely dying to hang out with other Bitcoiners. That's why we get like 100, 150 people to the Austin Bitcoin Devs meetup every month, because people are just so hungry to hang out with other Bitcoiners. We've probably been hanging out with whoever's living in your house for the last year and a half and are honestly a little bit sick of them. They probably don't share quite your enthusiasm for Bitcoin, or something's a little off and everything else. Now you get to talk to a bunch of other people. I mean, that to me is what I felt when I was at BitBlock Boom last year. It was just such a great time, because we got to get together with people that you honestly haven't seen in a while, and everyone's been isolated. They haven't had too much adult interaction. So, I mean, that I think is going to make this event just absolutely lit.
Yeah, I think that Zoom calls are great. The connection virtually is one thing, and that's been a silver lining of 2020 to connect and build communities digitally, but nothing beats a face-to-face in-person meeting with a Bitcoiner. Let you know you're not crazy.
Not just that you're not crazy, but you get to celebrate with them. Because honestly, like the last time we got to hang out with each other was when Bitcoin was at like 7,000 or something like that. So I mean, there's a lot of accumulated celebrating that needs to happen that we haven't really gotten to do, and I think that's going to be reflected in what's going to happen that week. I mean, something I keep hearing, you know better than me, but I keep hearing numbers that are like greater than 10,000 people are going to be converging in this one place in Miami. I can't imagine just how much celebrating, shall we say, will be happening during this thing.
Okay, so look, I've heard big numbers too, Jimmy. I don't know the exact numbers, but they're big, 5 digits. And there's going to be a lot of people that probably don't even buy conference tickets. There's going to be so many great satellite events. I know you're hosting one. Do you want to share what you're doing?
Yeah, so I have two things. I don't know if I've talked to you about the second one yet, but the first one is going to be the programming blockchain seminar, which I've done since 2017. I've done like, I don't know, 30 of them or something like that. I've taught well over 600 developers, basically about the Bitcoin protocol. I have students that are in every major Bitcoin company that took my course, many of whom are core contributors and so on. So if that's your ambition, this is the course to take. It's June 1st and 2nd. And I will be going through the scholarship applications later tonight and handing out a few of them for that. But yeah, that's the first satellite event, June 1st and 2nd. I am going to be holding the programming blockchain seminar. And the other one is related to the book, Thank God for Bitcoin. I am hoping to hold a prayer breakfast during the morning of one of the days. Not sure exactly where yet or exactly how it's going to go. I've never really done a prayer breakfast before, but it is for people of the Christian faith to get together and recognize that there's other Christians in the Bitcoin industry and hang out and maybe pray a little bit, and that's it.
Cool, man. Well, let's get it loaded on the website. Happy to.
Yeah, once I have a venue and everything set up and even the date, I'm not sure if I should do it.
Yeah,
Friday morning or Saturday morning, that sort of thing. So yeah, but it will happen.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the agenda, which we should be releasing very shortly. Friday morning is like crazy packed with like huge keynotes. Saturday morning's a little bit more lax. So anyway.
So you're saying I should do it on Saturday morning? I might take that up. Yeah.
I think everyone's going to be so jacked Friday morning too, to like get in there, get in the conference Saturday. But anyway, you do what you want, man. You do you. So looking back, the world has changed a lot in the past 2 years. Looking back, the last time we had one of these conferences for the company was Bitcoin 2019. Man, what do you think is the biggest change in Bitcoin and in the world in those 2 years?
Well, I mean, the entire world's completely different, right? We've had some insane amount of money printing. We've like the Bitcoin industry has come a long way. I still remember that conference in San Francisco and thinking, okay, well, Bitcoin only conferences are really a thing now. And especially back then, it was lots of altcoiner events and things like that. So. In our industry, I would say that, this conference sort of marks a significant shift. Like Consensus was for a long time the big conference. And of course, they're known for all their shitcoining and things like that. So right. I think that this is a major shift in the industry where Bitcoin only conferences become sort of the dominant ones. And I think we're going to see it at this conference where, okay, like we're not interested in any of your altcoin narratives, that proliferate online or whatever. And they're not going to have a voice at this place. And that, I've noticed that the few dropouts to this conference tend to be people that are friendly towards altcoining. So, this is the direction that Bitcoin should be going, and I think that's going to be the biggest difference. Is the scale of it is completely different. The world is very different. I think everyone recognizes the utility of Bitcoin as a savings technology much more so than they did back in 2019 because we've lived through it. The last couple of years, it's just become such a big thing. So
do you think that's not strictly the money printer, or do you think the meme is just the story's being told better? What do you think it is? A little bit of both?
I mean, it's definitely the money printer. I think that we've been telling the story since 2011, but the actual money printing is having a real effect. If you're looking at lumber prices or aluminum prices, copper prices, silicon prices, chip prices, like the commodity index is going sky high right now. And, even if you go to the grocery store and look at meat, then, I was at Costco looking at meat, everything's gone up 30%. It's, like at every grade of of beef. It's like, okay, choice meat is now like $12 a pound, and prime meat is like $18 a pound. And just a few years ago, this was like $10 a pound and like $12 a pound. It's going up really fast. And I think everyone can kind of feel it, especially with real estate asset prices and things like that. So, I mean, we're definitely in the middle of that, and that's the biggest change that's going to just absolutely blow everything out of the water in terms of adoption of Bitcoin. Like, Michael Saylor himself said, "Hey, U.S. dollar is a melting ice cube." I started researching this stuff because of that. And that's probably true of a lot of CFOs right now. I wouldn't be surprised if during this conference we found out like 5 more companies are putting Bitcoin on their balance sheets and so on. But that is a major reason, and it's only going to accelerate from here. And we're going to be witnesses to all of it.
Okay, so that's the big change that we've seen since 2019. The world is completely different. As we're going into 2021, now here we are. What is your like most excited thing besides like seeing the people? What is your most thing that you're most excited about going into the conference?
Besides seeing the people is the point.
That's it. Next question.
No. Seriously, like we've had online conferences and stuff, and they suck.
Yep.
They suck because you're just sitting there and listening. You don't get to interact with people. You could get the same content on YouTube or whatever. It's not necessarily about the content. It's the interaction. It's the being with other people and hanging out with them and hearing from their own mouths and hanging out, having dinner, being a community. This is the underrated thing about these conferences, is that it really does become sort of this communal experience that we're like biologically wired for. If you don't have that, if you're limited to watching videos or reading articles or being on Twitter and maybe even being on Clubhouse or something like that, it's a very different experience than being in the same place at the same time with other people and having sort of that esprit de corps of celebrating and knowing. I mean, there's a reason why there tends to be pumps around these conferences and so on. Historically, this has been true of Bitcoin. It's because people are getting excited. People understand that there is value to being in the same room at the same time with people. And it's, try as you might with Zoom or even telepresence or whatever, it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. There is some like real tangible biological things that happen that we don't fully understand that at conferences and meeting people and at the scale that this is expected to be. It's it's something honestly that we haven't really seen before. We haven't had 10,000 Bitcoiners in one place. So I'm very curious about what that's going to look like, sound like, feel like, how that's going to affect things. And it's not like littered with shitcoiners or whatever. It's there's something real that will happen at this conference that we're not gonna have expected, and it's going to I'm looking forward to that more than anything else.
All right, so I shouldn't have just brushed off the people like I did. So my apologies. For someone who maybe like you've been to many of these conferences, you have a considerable network. What would you say to someone who maybe is like going to their first Bitcoin conference and doesn't have the network itself? How can they get the most out of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. First of all, like hang out and like just keep your ear to the ground and make friends, right? Like the nice thing about a conference like this is that it's kind of like your first week, your freshman year, right? Like everyone's nice to each other because nobody knows anybody else, right? And it's just sort of like, hey, like that's they're overly nice almost. And that's the case, especially at the beginning of a conference. Everyone is there to meet other people. So take a risk. Like go out and meet some people, hang out with people, talk to people, go to lunch with somebody, dinner with somebody, sit next to somebody, and like get yourself in there instead of just sort of like sitting by yourself in the corner or whatever. You want to be in the middle of those conversations, where somebody invites you to lunch or dinner or whatever. Go to the things that you're interested in, hang out in the various places where people hang out. I promise you there will be lots of hallways with lots of conversations. The content is good, but again, like you can get all of that at home too, including my panel, right? Like I'm scheduled to speak, but and I'm grateful if you come to my session and ask questions and do all that. But the more important thing I think is getting to know other people and making connections and making and networking and things like that. That to me is the far more valuable thing. And you can certainly get a lot out of the sessions too, but there's something really magical that happens when you're in a community full of people that have the same values, that are looking to connect, that you have something truly in common with. And that's take advantage and put yourself out there, do things that are good for the industry by making connections. Yeah,
I love that. Take a risk. That's the moral of the story. Take a risk, meet people. I've heard a lot of times that the real conference happens in the hallways. This is going to be like you said, a lot of different hallways, but we're also going to have like a vert ramp for Tony Hawk and a music stage and an art gallery. So there's going to be so many places to find people of similar interest. I think it's going to be kind of a cultural phenomenon, this conference itself. I mean, just where we are at in the history of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, its adoption phase. I think this is truly going to be kind of like a once in a lifetime type experience.
Yeah, we've never had this before. Like, right. 12 years of Bitcoin history, we've never had like 10,000 people in the same 10,000 Bitcoiners in the same place. We've had conferences where we had like shitcoiners and big faces of Justin Sun or something like that, but not like we've never had a bunch of Bitcoin people that are specifically there for Bitcoin that haven't that are all gathering in one city and talking about this stuff. I mean, it could transform the city. The mayor of Miami is very much into Bitcoin. I believe he's speaking even. I'm not sure, but this going to be a cultural moment. Like this might become sort of like the Bitcoin Woodstock kind of event.
I've seen the lineup. Mayor Suarez will be in attendance. He's going to kick us off, I believe, with a keynote. And man, there's a bunch of other stuff. The team, so I'm part of the Bitcoin Magazine team. The conference guys, they function as their own group, and they are hush hush. And they've assured me there's still some crazy stuff up their sleeves, and they are just trickling out information very slowly and painfully. But I'm very excited. I did get my eyes on the agenda, and I see you're going to be on a panel discussion with some other big thinkers. You are going to be talking about the moral case for Bitcoin. Do you have? Can you share any insights? And the people on the panel that I see: Guy Hirsch, Breedlove, you, and Guy Swan. I mean, like that's some big minds, big thinkers.
Yeah, and Robert, co-authored this book with me. Thank God for Bitcoin, and we honestly talked about the moral case for Bitcoin for like 6 months with each other, and I think we recorded a podcast with Stefan Livera. We recorded another one for Real Vision, talking about this very topic. So if you want sort of a preview, go listen to those. They're available. But the moral case for Bitcoin, I think, is something that I've been thinking quite a bit about for the last few years. And I think it is sort of like the next level of argument that we need to make, that it is a moral imperative and not just a financial expedient or something to help you in your retirement or something like that, but something that is truly good for civilization, whereas fiat money is something that is horrible for civilization. And that's ultimately, I think, the argument that we'll be presenting and maybe talking about as a panel. Very excited about it, obviously. And this is the next level of discourse that we need to get to this cycle. And hopefully it really penetrates the cultural milieu that will be Bitcoin City in a few weeks.
The past couple years throughout the bear market and where we are today, I feel like just observing, it seems like a ton of building happened. We saw the emergence. Really, the artists were there, but I feel like now the artists really have a spot in the spotlight. And now it's like the philosophical thinkers have really emerged. And it seems like with every epoch, if you will, kind of Bitcoin it broadens its horizon. Its event horizon gets a little bit bigger. And I feel like in this last cycle, it was really like the artists kind of made their niche, the philosophical thinkers, and it's like the lightning. If I was to like summarize that, I kind of feel like that was kind of Bitcoin hardening on the last epoch.
Yeah, there's subcultures within Bitcoin that are certainly developing. And, that in itself should be present at the conference, because you're going to see all those pockets, right? A lot of us are going to hang out and talk philosophy or whatever. There's going to be a bunch of artists talking art, and there's probably going to be, people that are into sports, like watching Tony Hawk or something, right? Like there's going to be various subcultures that are going to be present, and we'll see just how far they are going to go. And I suspect that there will probably be groups that come out of this. I've noticed, for example, in the last year that there's been a lot more women coming into Bitcoin. So I suspect that there will be something geared towards them that will happen sort of organically, instead of like sort of in a forced way that every other conference does. Oh, let's have a panel on women in blockchain or something, and it's like those are all useless. Like they never do anything. But something that's actually bottom up, that is sort of like community led and so on. I think that will be something that will be interesting to watch, and I think that may very well happen at this conference. That you'll see more grassroots stuff coming out of it.
Yep. I think that I agree with you. Just the free and open source nature of Bitcoin itself, it's just trickled right into the community aspect. But okay, so one of the last things I want to ask you about. So what do you think is the most critical topic of discussion for Bitcoin 2021? Like, what is the most important thing that we get out there in the open and discuss as a greater community, and so that the media can hear it, so that maybe people who are curious can hear about it, something that we take back to the mainstream?
Well, I think the main sort of argument that I think has been resonating with people, that I think just needs to get louder, is Bitcoin is a savings technology. This is how you save money. If you save money in the dollar, you're going to get screwed. If you save money, in some other way, you're going to have all sorts of transaction or research costs or something like that. Bitcoin is savings, and that Pierre Rochard, I think, recently changed his Twitter name to Bitcoin is saving, and I think that's right. That is the narrative. I think that the world needs to hear, because they need it more than ever. All of these other vehicles for saving are in some serious trouble. And Bitcoin is the one thing that can weather the storm. So, once we get that message out, I think we're in a good position. But that's the main message that I'd like to see the community just shout from the rooftops, and get towards the rest of the world.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm very excited about that. So, okay, we're going to wrap this thing up. Where can people find you on the internet? And any closing remarks?
Well, I mean, people can find me on Twitter and at Jimmy Song. I have a newsletter, jimmysong.substack.com. I'm on Instagram, Jimmy Song Bitcoin, LinkedIn, Jimmy Song, and Medium, Jimmy Song. YouTube, Off Chain with Jimmy Song. Final word is, get excited for this conference. Like, it's never happened before. It's going to be absolutely crazy, because we have a lot to celebrate. it's sort of like a cultural moment that I don't think you're going to want to miss. So I'm very excited. I think a lot of other people are excited, and yeah, let's make Bitcoin even more amazing than it already is.
Awesome. Jimmy, thank you for joining, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. See you then.